Good morning, class. Today it is my pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Matt Kuntz. Matt was born and raised in Helena, Montana, and received his bachelor's degree from West Point and his law degree from the University of Oregon. Matt served as an infantry officer in the Army and was recognized as a distinguished member of the 35th Regiment for his service. Following the death of his stepbrother, Matt began advocating for effective screening and treatment for post-traumatic stress injuries in returning service members. Mr. Kuntz also became the executive director for the National Alliance on Mental Illness for Montana, or NAMI. Matt has helped lead the charge on a number of state advocacy efforts to establish peer mental health services in Montana, educate about children's mental health, and prevent the incarceration of offenders with serious mental illnesses. When not at work, Matt can be found with his wife and 3 kids somewhere in the woods of Helena. Without further ado, please welcome Matt Kuntz.
Thank you so much, Eliza. I'm really grateful to be here today. Thank you to the class of 2022 for allowing me to celebrate your graduation with you. This school, students, teachers, and administrators have always meant a lot to me, and they always will. I'm going to start out with one broad theme and then move into 8 specific points. When I sat down with the class leaders, one of the things that they brought up was uncertainty and the feelings of uncertainty in the past 2 years, and sometimes how even the adults in your lives didn't get it. And I'm not here to deny that uncertainty. The reality is even without the pandemic, your generation, like mine, is going through the transition from the industrial age to the information age. And it's been a bouncy ride, and it will continue to be bouncy. But I ask you to think about, what if you had the opportunity to sit down and talk to your ancestors that lived in 1880 to 1940. And if you had the chance to tell them about the pandemic, wars in Europe, the Middle East and Africa, threats of financial recession, social, political upheaval, and technologies changing how people live, work, and communicate. Those uncertainties would not have seemed that strange to them because they lived through the same thing. And on a long enough timeline, those uncertainties become certain. But I challenge you to find out for yourselves what the positive certainties are. The certainties that you can build a life and a family and a career on. As long as we exist as humanity, we will need people to grow our food, to generate our energy, people to transport our goods and each other, people to build our houses, people to educate our children, and to care for our health. We will need people to keep our nation and our communities safe and secure. We will need people to deliver justice and fight for equality, and to teach us to believe in something larger than ourselves, and also to entertain us along the way. How we do those things and the tools we use will change. But it's certain that we will need those fields and others like them, and your paths lies somewhere amidst that certainty. So now I'm going to move into the 8 specific points. The first one is to work in your strength. Regardless of career trends, life is so much easier if you're able to work in an area that you are really interested in and are good at. It's a perfect time to tell what that is. You went through 13 years together with this cohort, challenged by a broad curriculum and specific interest areas. What interest, way of thinking, or combination do you have that's different from your classmates? This concept shouldn't be fully formed. Sparks that can be kindled into a life of accomplishment and joy. Reaching those accomplishments will require consistent hard work, adaptation, and more hard work. But that is so much easier to do in areas that you really care about and are good at. Number 2, value your relationships and the people that you have them with. Relationships in family, romance, and work vary in duration, meaning, and power. But having a relationship with someone that has your best interest in mind is precious. Even when those relationships have to end, value them. Number 3, control what in your life is compounding. Everything gets easier after you've already done one of it, and easier again after you do it the second time, and on until in some ways it's basically growing on its own. We hear about that a lot in investments, in debt, but it's for everything. One example for me, which a few people on this podium might remember, is the second semester of my junior year of high school. The only thing compounding in my life was trouble. Everywhere I went, I found it. And it was really clear that something in my life had to change. My decisions, my actions, and I even had to set a plan to change geography. And it worked, at least compared to then. Another example was I got injured in U.S. Army's Ranger School. I lost my career, strained relationships, and launched me into a deep depression. But in that depression, I started writing to begin to take positive daily steps through the darkness. So much of my life and career has been based on the positive compounding that came out of trying to put words on paper every day and find some meaning in them. Number 4, lean into adversity. In the summer of 1997, I lost my friend Darcy Zeiler to an eating disorder. On the flight back to West Point, after her funeral, I swore that I would never work in mental health again. It was too hard. Everybody had done everything right, including Darcy, and we still lost her. But 10 years later, our family lost my stepbrother, Chris, to post-traumatic stress after he returned from Iraq. And at that point, I realized I couldn't keep turning away from the things that were killing the people that I loved. And I challenge you to turn into your own adversity and your own challenges, and don't be like me and wait 10 years to get started. Number 5, after you built a foundation, go after the massive goals that mean a lot to you. For me, that's precision mental health, arguably the most important challenge to alter the trajectory of mental health care. The goal of using more data to get the right care to the right people at the right time. We were told very clearly by good, smart people that our little nonprofit in Helena could never make a difference on that big issue. Thankfully, we didn't listen to them. It took over a decade, but no one can argue that we didn't make a difference, or that our little nonprofit hasn't had a national impact on our country's efforts to develop and roll out precision mental health initiative for veterans. In fact, it's named after one of our volunteers, Commander John Scott Hannon. Number 6, find something bigger than yourself, some faith or scientific philosophy that works for you and gives you a reason to push forward against hardships, heartbreaks, and seemingly unsolvable challenges. I don't know when in your life you will need that belief system, but I know that you will be grateful for it when you do. Number 7, manage your brain health. There's 80 billion neurons in your brain affecting how you think, feel, and act. One of the biggest lessons of working for NAMI Montana for a decade is I have to manage my own brain health or it will manage me. So I ask you to think about that now and set yourself on a good path, because the future you will be grateful for it. And finally, number 8, open doors for people. This was a lesson that I learned in health class from Vice Principal Walt Chauncey that I've tried to carry throughout my life. The act of opening a door is a tangible statement that that person and their life has value. An open door crosses gaps in language, race, culture, and religion, forming a bridge between people in a time when we desperately need more bridges between people. So go out and open those doors. The world will be better for it. Thank you so much for having me speak to you today. It's been an incredible honor. Congratulations on your accomplishments. I can't wait to live in the world that you're going to build. Go Bruins.